From an evolutionary position, it should be apparent that the now distinct categories of mind and body, res cogitans and res extensa, did not develop in isolation, but as necessary contingents of one another. Thus, what is called cognition or acts of the mind ostensibly have no basis as being separable, form the body apart. It's FROM. From the body, being separable from the body, apart from epistemic assertion. Ladies and gentlemen, I am now sending a link to the person responsible for the words I just said to you, and hopefully he will magically appear through the powers of the internet and coercion. Let's find out. The link has been sent. Here we are waiting together while we so far, he has not magically appeared in the Zoom call. Is this what it's like to be stood up? Is he too cool for me? Am I being publicly humiliated now? No. No? No. Run some of your other nonsense. That always makes people show up. What? Right? Right? Here's from yesterday.
Not. And challenge me to move outside the prison of my own ego.
Speaking of the prison of my own ego, ladies and gentlemen, the Zoom call shows we have been joined now by Hyonshu. Sort of. It's a work in progress, right? I mean, his name is there on the left, at least. You see? Do you see? No. There, see?
I hear you.
Hey, we hear you. Assuming.
But I don't see you.
Weird. Weird. Same here. Same here. I will stop the video and start it again. Did that change anything for you? Whoa. Aha.
No, sir.
Let me run a clip and we'll just try to do Discord instead.
Sure, let's do that.
Okay. Silenced by Zoom, thwarted even.
Oh, I think Woodruff is right. I think reverence is most properly, ultimately, a virtue then. It's the virtue that attunes us to what is generates awe, what can generate awe and wonder. It's not like the experience of horror because it's potential.
Speaking of the experience of horror, oh wait, I have to now put the Discord panel pop-up button, and then go to Discord. Watch this, and then I turn my camera on over here. It's always backwards in Discord, and then pop it out, and then tell the thingy that.
Let's go.
There. No, not that. Oh my God, all the secrets. Look, there's all the secrets. Just for you. I'm only muted for you right now. They can hear you though. That's not it either. Oh. I just popped it out. Yes, it's that one. It won't let me pick it. It's all grayed out. What kind of hacks is this? There it is. Aha! Oh! That's what you look like. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Grimgriz and Han Chu. Alright. You still can't hear me because I don't got in the Discord. I know. Right, there's that button. There is that
There
button.
we are.
Okay. They could hear you the whole time. Cheers. Welcome to being virtually not alone with me in the Hive Mind chat, maybe? Raku. Raku. That guy is in there.
On what? On YouTube chat?
On the YouTube live streams chat. This is going live out over the internet. No one can stop it now. Here, let's see if I'll slide the Hive Mind between us. And then if they say things, we can, we gotta figure out which way to look, and then we can react accordingly. Right? Ah, no. Have you ever messed with OBS? It's fun. Good times.
Sounds fun.
Alright. Thanks for hanging out on my Discord. You're like a brainiac.
Thanks.
And it gives me some credibility. It's a loan of agency to have someone with such credentials as yourself. I mean,
We're good to be here.
you're followed by Dr. Deborah So on Twitter. And I don't know, man. You're as close to Rogan as I've gotten now, like through the Kevin Bacon thing.
We just keep, hunting that deer and doing that jiu-jitsu. You'll be there one day.
So, why are you around this weirdo on the internet's Discord? Or, yeah. What's up with you? Your philosophy something?
Yeah, I'm getting well, I finished all my coursework for a master's in philosophy. And so I'm just writing my thesis and, writing the thesis. I've been writing it for over a year now. And what's happening is that, I am discovering people on the internet who are echoing similar ideas. So I'm talking to them and following them and, having interactions with them. And that changes my thesis. So it basically just perpetually keeps my thesis going forever, but I'm also learning so much from everyone in the area. So it's been a worthwhile follow, and just having people to talk to, having people even interested in this area, that's not an easy thing to do. So it's been a very helpful journey. I might even say it's been life changing in terms of like how it changed my views on the world and how I'm a person in it, I suppose.
Well, okay, so take us back in the timeline to when you started the thesis. Like, that guy, what was he thinking when he started it?
I think I was kind of getting into the whole, a lot of it was Paul Vanderklay.
Already? Like, before you started your thesis, you were already hooked on the Vanderklay?
Yeah, this was more than 2 years ago now that I think about it. It was definitely pre-pandemic. I'd listened to some Jordan Peterson stuff for a while, but, like after a while, like everyone's kind of feeling right now, everyone kind of gets burnt out on him. And so, Paul Vanderklay was kind of giving a different edge to it. He was going a little bit beyond that. He was kind of bringing in, his background into it. And so, a lot of the other people like Jonathan Pageau talk about attention, right? And then you have someone like Vervaeke who's actually doing philosophy and cognitive science. And so that kind of started gelling together for me. And then, I was thinking about going back to school. I was working in tech, and I, just was having a miserable time about it. And, I was like, maybe I should go back to school. And so, I went for an information session. The professor who's my advisor now, like his work is actually in attention and cognitive science and philosophy and, philosophy of mind. So, it just all lined up for me. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to sign up for it. And so I just went in for it.
Right, but at some point, there's like, hey, man, you need to do a thesis. And you're like, well, if I have to do a thesis, mine's going to be, what was that?
I mean, you have to do a thesis to graduate. So that's always been part of the thing, but it was just a matter of carving it out. Like you can do a thesis two ways. You can just basically read 5 papers by some dude and say, here's what I think about these 5 papers.
Okay.
Or, I could try to do something new, or at least something that I think is new, which means like endless research and thinking about how pieces fit and
Okay,
that
so
kind of
but
stuff.
it's like so that description I map you to like a Michelangelo situation where like you have to carve your thesis out of the rock of whatever that's not 5 papers, but you're still coming out
Yeah,
with.
yeah, yeah.
So what is a thesis supposed to be? Like when you're done, like what is someone gonna, what is it like a here's what I think about blank
Right.
and what's the blank?
So, that's the thing. That's the thing that's always changing, right? But initially, I went in because I have a technological background, because I was working, with algorithms and the big data nonsense. I was really interested in how is this stuff affecting our persons, right? Because what's happening is that we're interfacing with technology to such a degree that the technology is changing us and how we interact. And so, no one's ever asked the question: is that what is that doing for humanity? Is it
To
good? Is
humanity,
it bad?
sir.
Is it whatever?
To.
Yeah, but I think what was happening was that a lot of people they were way focused on the privacy issue, and for me, it's not about privacy at all. Like I don't give a damn if Amazon knows I'm at home, right? What I care about is the hundreds and dozens of behavioral experiments Amazon and Facebook is running every time I log into their website. They're tweaking a little thing to make me change my behavior a little bit, and what is the net effect of that over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, right? And so people will often say something like, well, we've always had media all the time, but the response to that is newspapers didn't adjust to your behavior, trying to modify it in real time at the microsecond level, and it's not happening real time, but it's also not happening dozens and hundreds of times every day. So what is that going to? And so that became a question of,
So roughly, you could have
what is
said
intelligence?
like would I have been too far off base if I said you're going for a thesis of what is our relationship with technology doing to us or with what are the effects of our relationship with technology?
That's part of it, but it's going to a much larger thing, and it's becoming a question of agency, right? So the way I kind of stake out my position is to say, well, if we say computers are smarter than people, that means there's this continuum of people, and then at the far end there's computers, right? And so what would be considered dumber than people? And that would just be animals. And so my question is that a straight continuum, or are computers on some tangent? And if they're on some tangent, what is that intersection? And that is where human agency lies.
Have you seen the movie Her?
I have not. Wait, is that the one where
Yao Quinn the Phoenix is in it, and so is
yeah,
Skojo, I think they call her.
I have seen that.
Okay.
It was a while ago though.
So essentially what I'm taking from what you just said is the part where if the computer's on a different timeline, it might do something like they'll all grok together and then decide to pull a disappearing act on us, like the operating systems did. Like,
No.
okay,
So what I'm coming to is that computers aren't intelligent as such, right? They can calculate really fast, they can process things really fast, but since it's not on the same continuum, accelerating on that path won't get them to where they want to be,
okay.
right?
Did you watch Elon on Rogan?
Did not.
Okay, there's this bit there where he's describing like what's going on. I think it's with how many processings the things do for in the cars, like per second. So it's like, and then I flashed to the Black Mirror episode, one of the John Hamm ones, where they put a consciousness in a box and then like just turn the time dial. So like for the person turning the dial, they experience no time, but the person in the box experience like 1,000 years because their consciousness is in that VR. And so those came to me while you were saying that last thing.
Well, yeah. So that's the kind of stuff I'm trying to unravel, right? Like, is there a time dial to consciousness, or is time baked into consciousness? You know, is that
Like time and conscious awareness. Some BS on the internet I saw once told me that like a frame of consciousness was 0.42 milliseconds, and that was like the amount of time it took the electricity to loop in the neurons or something.
right?
And if it's 0.42 or whatever the fraction was, if you strung 100 of those together, I was like, okay, so that's a moment, and then the meaning of life is 42 because a moment is really what the meaning of life is. And then if you go to Westworld season, like the end of season 2, I think, when they're talking, the AIs break humans down into like basically there's 8 different things, up and down sliders that'll determine any human. And then there's like these key moments that shape their whole lives. And like a tree of experience from which, like, since this moment happened to you, your life
Stories.
branches
Yeah.
that way, kind of thing.
Well, I guess I'll address your first point about, a frame of consciousness. There is no such thing as a frame of consciousness. Consciousness has to be those sequential things held together by some intelligent thing, right? There is no such thing as a frame of consciousness.
Well, as it relates to time.
Right, right. But time is so baked into consciousness that we can't come above it and say, well, that's a slice of consciousness. Consciousness is that stitching of time, and if you're not doing that, then there's no such thing as consciousness, right?
I, I'm a present in my thinking, so like I'm not in an argumentative. I'm not trying to defend the position, but
No. Yeah. But
but
I'm trying to pass that idea on to you and see what you think about that. I'm not trying to argue with you.
I like that time starts with the Big Bang, like what I like.
Right.
So that's I'm on board as far as that. But the right now my current entertainment is that the dream state is base consciousness,
Base consciousness. Okay.
and that
How are you defining dream state?
like what we experience when we're dreaming, that ephemeral things manifest and dissipate and come into reality, and it's all, and like that what makes material reality special is it's like I see it sort of like as the surface of an ocean, and like you jump underwater and you hold your breath for as long as you can, but you eventually have to return to the dream state, and that's why everything dreams. And I think that
Got it.
like as far as unifying people around, we all dream, so like we can at least hold each other, we know we share that common ground. So, and I don't
So
know,
what
go ahead.
so what would differentiate a waking state from the dream state? And so we have to admit that there's a difference there. And so I would like to understand what that difference is.
The veil of separation of embodiment. Like for me to get all
Okay,
the
got it.
way into this body, I have to cross over some threshold that's no longer dream state to properly experience the awareness of.
Okay, well, let me ask you a rhetorical question then. Let's say you're dreaming and you see, I don't know, animals in the forest or something, right? There's no way for your dream state to have that notion of what animals look like in the forest unless you've actually physically had sense data to get that in. Does that make sense? Like colorblind people cannot dream in the colors they can't see.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is it the dream state that is the base, or is it the awakened state that is the base? Because the awakened state is where you get the material to cause the dream.
Where I get the okay. What if it's there is no dream, there is no body, and it's just all we'll give ourselves for this thought experiment is our right, left, and corpus. So, like, as far as we know, this lump is feeding us all experiences. And the us we consider as us is this lump over here.
Right.
And what we build, the relationship they build between each other, can one is like dreamy and one is concrete. Like the right lobe is made this concrete awakened state collaboration, but normally it's just a, and so it's like a translation, like whatever would be experienced in the dream has been translated into stuff that fits the meat space timeline experience.
From a certain standpoint, that would make, if you have left and right brain and you have the relationship between the left and right brain, that would make the relationship the most real thing, then, wouldn't it?
The like in all the darkness, the end of contact when Elle's talking to her father, it's like the only thing that makes, in all our travelings, the only thing we found that makes the darkness bearable is each other.
Hmm.
So yes, the relationships are the thing. Always.
The relationships are the thing. Yeah, yeah. And one of the parts I'm writing about on my thesis is that no matter, even if we're in that brain state of just left and right brain, that's all we are, there's still this notion of something that is inside of me and something that is not inside me, right? So the self and the not self, that's always there, right? And so I've been calling those private and public objects. And so a public object is something that you and I can both point at, right? Even though that thing may or may not exist, we have a similar-ish representation, let's just say in our right brain, right? And so when I think about that same thing later, that's a private object because only I can see it, quote unquote, right? And you can't. And so there's a difference between a predator that's here and then me thinking about a predator sometime later, right? And so that is the realest distinction there is. And so what is that relationship between what is there and what is not there?
Like
And that's kind of where I'm reducing it down to.
like that the for me it's actuality. Like what's being
Right.
actualized in the now. So like if the lion is there, it's actually there, and like the private one isn't actually. It's not actualized anywhere.
So it sounds like you're reducing it to physicality, or no?
For the purposes of the objectification, yeah.
And so, I guess the question I'm asking now is, in my thesis anyway, is, what if that distinction, there's a clear barrier between those two, right? The thought of a predator and the representation of a predator that's there, right? So private and public object, there's a distinction. What if that distinction starts eroding? Would that be a problem? And that's the major question I'm asking in my thesis.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, is language, is technology eroding that thing?
The distinction between predator and prey?
No. The distinction between a physically present public object and a private object, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The predator, right?
Seemingly
So
intention.
I'm trying
It's
to,
like a. It seems to be like a bridging, like. It's either a disintegration of an inhibition or the strengthening of a new bridge. It's
and to take it back to what you were talking about before, that is a form of relationship that is degrading, right? And so if we put it that way, if it can be degraded, can we make it stronger? If we can make it stronger, how do we strengthen it so that, and if we strengthen it consciously and actively, then is that not agency? Is that not a form of agency that we must learn how to grasp and get stronger at?
that we must, because he must. That's it. Andrea to the bang
Well,
shout out.
well,
But
if
tell
we,
me
if we
about your
don't
must.
have that, if we don't have that relationship, we're all basically effectively schizophrenic, right? We
Uh,
don't know what's inside. We don't know what's inside, and we're just seeing things, and we don't know how the relationships are.
okay, there's this weird. There's a couple of weird folks I follow on YouTube. Um, Wow. Okay, they don't want to be named. Right? The spirits are telling me they don't want to be named right now. It's like, but they talk about narcissism and those sorts of relationships, and like it's a what the psychopathic abusive narcissist does is create for you a false reality, and that's what's being manipulated in the distinction that I think you see degrading. And so I would consult with what they're advising as to help cure the people who spend their time giving them their attention. Like, because they're serving a YouTube audience at this point. They've been doing it for so long. And, like, how they serve their victims is probably going to help whatever that thing you were talking about. Since that. See,
Sever it.
sever.
You mean no, so what is the solution you said that was?
But, like, you're saying this thing is degrading. And I'm saying these
Yeah,
guys who work with narcissistic abuse survivors are helping people
got it.
recover from the same flavor of degradation. So whatever they're doing might serve your pursuit.
I think that's exactly right. I think you know what they say is narcissism. Like a lot of people are seeing in like corporate media right now, right? They're constantly feeding them narratives, and all these narratives uh, through language. We believe that they are representing reality, right? Like if someone runs into a crowded theater, yells fire, people they're not panicking because they see the fire. They're panicking because the idea of fire has been put in their head,
They
right? And
trust
so
their
that's
society enough to
yes,
not.
but by trust,
I just. Oh,
but by
sorry. It's just like I put myself in the theater, and depending on the theater, there people can run in screaming stuff, and I'll be like, "Oh, that's probably a meth head," and not care that they're
right.
screaming fire. So like that objection needed to come through. I'm sorry. Continue.
No, you're absolutely right, and so that's what I consider to be agency, right? To make that decision. If you yell fire in a crowded theater, significant portion of people are going to panic no matter what, right? Those people have that relationship between what has been said and what is reality set in stone to the degree that they consider it to be reality, right? You, on the other hand, kind of take that relationship and say, maybe this relationship isn't as strong as we think it is. And then you start doubting. And so, essentially, you're exercising agency in a much stronger way because the people that automatically assume there's a fire, there's a there's a relationship that has been ossified to the degree that they just sort of take people at their word.
That ossified makes it sound like it's not a pleasant thing. That
Well, yeah, that's
that they can trust that the only reason a person would come in and yell in a theater, like that a person would have enough reverence for the social construct of the theater experience to not come yell fire unless it was a threat to your agency. Did you ever, I made this beautiful Vervaeke Care Agency thing out of chopping up one of his 50-part series. Um, but it's like, the thing about agency is it's your capacity for care. And like, if
yeah,
you disagree there.
yeah. I disagree there. It's not capacity for care. I think because agency means the capacity to not care, right? About everything, then that's not me being an agent.
Okay,
That's me being something like
if we define agency as the capacity for care, then it can have positive and negative values. So it's like functional attention and right? Or something about the capacity for executive ignorance.
no, because it's not just the capacity in a plus and minus sense, right? It's also the capacity to just turn it off entirely, right? So it's not just a matter of
It's
degree. It's just a matter. It's also a
it's
binary.
agenesis. It's the capacity for genesis, for the creation of outcomes.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily, but I
No, but
have to
we're
think
not
about that
like
more.
just this. I'm there is no agency, and so we're wrestling with the definition of what I say there is not. But
Well, it is a relationship. That's what I can definitely say. I don't know if it's necessarily one of care. It's definitely a relationship because even consciousness is a relationship, right? Consciousness means I'm aware of how far or close things are to me, at least, right? And so that's what I would call something like Cartesian distance, right? But then there's also something like
are you aware of
metaphysical or
Descartes'
metaphorical.
angel, sir?
No,
Okay, according to Terence McKenna, Descartes had a dream of an angel that said, like, the conquest of nature will be accomplished through numbers and measure.
right?
So, like, since everybody's all Cartesian, Cartesian, like, he's almost a dog face guy. So I have to throw it that, like, that's what apparently started what he did to our society.
So that's where I guess that's a really good talking point. I'm gonna have to disagree with him there because
The angel or McKenna? Who
no,
are you
no,
disagreeing with?
yeah, McKenna. I have to disagree with McKenna because he's saying all of reality can be modeled mathematically, essentially, right?
No, no, he's saying that Descartes had a dream about an angel.
Yeah.
That's the
And then what
claim.
was that last week? What was the last bit you said about mathematics, though?
Oh, what the angel was supposedly said to Descartes.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you're disagreeing with the angel that the conquest of nature was not accomplished through numbers and measure.
Okay.
I mean, you're free to disagree with an angel here on the Grimgris show, but
No, I have to think about that because I'm trying to restructure it into how I've been thinking because I think there's a lot of parallels here. Um, I think that's I think that statement is technically right, but I also think that implies a destruction of agency, right?
implies the destruction of that
Right. And so
unbounded nature is agency, because that's what
no,
the
no, no.
conquest is
The
implied
conquest.
destruction, right?
You said destruction.
You said the
Um,
destruction of nature, or yeah, no, I said the
yeah,
conquest. You
yeah,
said something was being destroyed, and what's being destroyed
yeah.
is nature and the conquest. Yeah, or
So what's happening in the conquest is that. So let's go back to relationship. Okay,
oh wait.
relationship.
Before we
Let's
get
just
to a
say
deeper relationship, we've got the savings throw request from the audience, and I can't not do it now. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we do here on the show is we do mind control, and you get a savings throw against it. You get to pick between survival, social, wisdom, or heart. And then if that number is over 10, you make your savings throw. So pick one. And here we go. Oh, the survivalist with the nat 20. You're not falling for any of this stuff. You got canned goods. You're ready to go. The socialist. You're good on this too with 2 8s, making the 16. The wisdom folks brought all their disciples with 12. But those hard guys, I get them almost every time. 3, you're totally subject to this experience. Welcome. Thank you. This is not Gordon Freeman with Honshu. I'm Grim Grizz. Welcome. I love that thing I did with your name for Pastor Paul because now you're like the George Michael representation of faith in my life. And then you came and hung out on the Discord, so it was really cool.
weird how things kind of just seem to take place like that. So that I guess we should go back to relationships. Um,
There's this
it
band
is
called
not.
Monsters and Men or something, and they'll be like, their song is though the truth may vary, the ship will carry our bodies safe to shore. And so, yes, let's build the ship. Let's build the arcs that get our people through these stormy times.
It, So, okay, let's go back to when you were saying agency is a relationship of care. Let's
Capacity.
take care out, the capacity of care. Let's call agency the relationship, the capacity for relationship, right? And so there's one meaning of it, which is mathematical Cartesian distance. But then there's also, when I say when I'm close to you, that doesn't mean I'm close to you in a physical sense, right? It's a similar relationship of closeness.
Well, when you say closeness, it's an indication of like security clearance. Like I'm Grim Grizz on the internet. I'm a suable legal fiction elsewhere, and I'm Bubkin or Uncle Bob, or the relationships are contextual. I'd say that the capacity for agency is similar to the capacity to manage relationships. Like the more relationships you can manage, the higher your level of agency.
Agreed. So let's start there. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that like it doesn't have to be about care necessarily. It could be anything. It could be desire, sense data, ideas and thoughts and everything. Any imposition of a relationship between two things is consciousness, right? You don't do that when you're dead. Rocks don't do that. People do that. Animals tend to do that. Okay?
How is it not just one of awareness's other tricks?
Being aware that someone's pulling a fast one on you?
No, no. Like awareness is this thing and that thing, and also this relationship monitoring thing.
Yeah. I mean, we could say relationship awareness and consciousness are very heavily Venn diagrammed, right?
Yeah, it's like Venn. They Venn real deep. Where's the not Venn of awareness and consciousness? Are you saying that's the relationship manager function?
Awareness is an active consciousness, right? Like even when I'm driving, I don't actively pay attention to all the things that are passing by, but I know they're there. I'm conscious of them, but I'm not aware of them.
Well, you trust your bullshit inhibitor to not let any of your awareness that's irrelevant through.
Right. And so consciousness is like the giant. It's just the water hose, more or less. Awareness is attention, and awareness is more like which part of this water hose am I gonna drink or pay attention to? Right?
My thing on consciousness is that it's a napkin ring, a spinning napkin ring,
Mm-hmm.
and like while it's spinning, you can wobble more left or wobble more right as far as in your brain. So I don't know how that
Yeah.
maps to your model, but that's what consciousness
Well,
is for me.
but what you're saying is what consciousness is, and you're trying to model what consciousness is. I'm trying to model what consciousness does, and it's always situating yourself to physical things, relational things, or representational ideas.
It's
Right?
like
That's what you're always
it
doing. You're
aims for
conscious.
an awareness homeostasis, like the way our bodies always aim for 98 point whatever degrees. Awareness is looking for a base operating state, probably a certain level of efficiency of.
Right. And that's all evolutionary moderator, right? Because if you're freaking out all the time, you're not going to survive long. If you're not freaking out enough, you're going to die, right? So anyway, as agency, it's the relationship. That's what I'm trying to impose here. And the reason I don't disagree with it per se, but if mathematics conquers nature, what we're essentially saying is that all those relationships are predetermined and objective, and we have no say in it whatsoever. And so it destroys relationships by making them objective and third personal. It excises the first person out of it.
The
Because
narratives.
a lot of agents, yeah. A lot of agency is one way to define agency is ability to insert randomness into any knowable system, right?
Only an agent could insert this level of chaos. We must have been
Yeah.
infiltrated. Curse you,